Hello again. So, I was just, speaking to a good old friend of mine who runs a place called Clink's Care Farm in the east of England. And it's reminded me of a few things because he wanted just sort of a quick rundown of my journey through Clink's Care Farm, where I went when I was 17, and onto my journey through farming and moving up the country and into Scotland and so on. And it got me thinking about something that I haven't thought about for a long time, which is the correlation between farming and mental health. So, since forever, we have known that farming can be quite a detriment, I don't know if that's the right word, to mental health. So much so that when the first sort of phones were invented, they were used on farms, or a very primitive version of the telephone, where it was basically, like when you're a kid and you tie a piece of string through two like cardboard cups, and you pull it tight and you can speak to the other person because of the vibration through the string. It was basically like that there was you had a phone, and it had a wire that would go along the fence line to another point of the farm or to a neighbouring farm, and it was put in place because there was a lot of unfortunate incidences that saw the end to some farmers because they were lonely working the fields, and it would cause depression and such. So they put these things in place so you could just pick up the phone and you could talk to somebody else on the other line. Doesn't matter who it was, you could just pick it up and say like, I'm feeling quite lonely at the moment, and you just discuss things and so on. So, as that got me thinking, even today in the modern world, farming it can be very hard on your mental health. It certainly was for me after leaving the first farm I worked on, simply because the first farm I worked on, I had the boss and the foreman were very, very accommodating people. They understood that I had mental health issues, and they helped me where they could. So I did very well through my first years in farming because I had that support. And then after moving on from my first farm, I lost that support. So my mental health did get worse. But the idea of Clink's Care Farm, which was the first care farm in England. It was brought over by Ducker from his country of origin, which they had a few of these care farms, but through his own life journey, he realised how beneficial farming could be to people who have sort of lost their way and such. And I'm very grateful to him, and I still keep in contact with him because of him bringing this. And I was the first person to go into that system in England and go straight into a job. So I did a lot for him. I did seminars and such where I just sort of share my journey, and it kind of made me realise that actually him bringing like this idea of a care farm, of farming on prescription, so you would go and you would just take care of the animals or growing the veg and stuff like that. It helped you get back into a community, and really he's brought something to the farming world that I think is going to revolutionise the way we see our farm workers and be able to accommodate and compromise on things to better the farming world. He's when I went, which was in the first 2 years of him setting this system up here. It was so farming on prescription. We would go for 1 day a week for 12 weeks. I went for 13, simply because one day happened to land on my 18th birthday. Where was I? I've lost it again. So yeah, when I started, it was this farming on prescription of 12 weeks, 1 day a week, and you'd go and you'd get there in the morning. You'd have this kind of sheet of paper where you'd sort of write down how you felt that morning, and you'd have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee or juice or whatever you wanted. You'd obviously take your lunch because it was a full day. It was like your 8 hours or what. But so you'd have your tea when you got there. You'd then have a small break at 9 or 10 a.m. You would then have like your lunch break at 12 or 1 o'clock, and then you'd have like your afternoon tea at 3. And that sort of helped people get back into the system, because the system on most farms is you would go and you'd sort of get there 15 minutes before you would start work to have like your, they call it debriefing, I would call it a briefing, just to go through what's happening that day. So you could sit there, you could have your cup of tea for that 15 minutes while you sort of went through that. You'd start your work, and you'd most likely have your first break or your breakfast at 9 or 10, and it would usually, a lot of places, which I don't agree with, do just like 10 to 15 minutes. The first farm I worked on, however, he was very generous. We would have half an hour's break for our first break, and then obviously we'd then get back on with work, and then we would stop again at about 1 o'clock for our lunch break, and we'd have an hour for lunch, and then we'd get on at sort of 2 p.m, and we would work until the end of the day, or 4:30 was our time there, was 7:30 to 4:30, except for on Sundays you'd start at like 8 o'clock, and you just basically work till you finished on weekends, obviously. But so go into Clink's care farm, and there are plenty more care farms now spread across the country, thanks to Dukkha. A lot of people that went there have actually started up their own care farms with similar working ideas to Clink's, but a little bit different. You know, they've obviously added and improved what they think is going to work properly or better, perhaps, and so on. So yeah, it was just basically a bit of a quick one to say that, and then, you know, and I've shared my journey again, which took a knew. You know, it's been a lot of years since I've been there, but I keep in contact with him. I keep in contact with my first boss, just because without those two people, I wouldn't be where I am today. I would never have had the confidence to leave the village that I grew up in. Certainly not any confidence to move to a different country, although it is connected, but it is a different country. You know, I would say, you know, my story, he just asked for a quick sort of run through of my journey and my success, I suppose, for that he's going to be sharing a few young people's journeys at a young farmers club close to where he is based. Just, I suppose, it's not only a bit of inspiration for them, but also to know that there is help out there in an area that they are interested in. And a lot of young people do need that safety net, I suppose. I certainly did. You know, I came through school and unfortunately, due to my anxiety and my social anxiety, I wasn't able to go through sixth form or college. You know, I had to go to school, but once the not having to anymore, it was like, yes, I don't have to go to that horrible place every day of my life ever again. And it was, you know, school wasn't a bad place. You know, of course I got bullied a little bit. I think everybody gets bullied a little bit, but for the most part, not knowing that I was autistic obviously didn't help through school, because I didn't, you know, the social side of school was very difficult for me, and, you know, obviously even some lessons, you know, I didn't do modern foreign languages. I did extracurricular English and maths instead of doing that, because, you know, those were the areas I didn't really need any improvement in maths. Due to my autistic traits, I am very good at maths, which helped me a lot in farming. I'm very good at sciences. English and language escapes me completely. I am unable to learn other languages. I still struggle with English, and I am English. You know, so I struggled through school, and I was unable to progress in areas that I wanted to, because of my fear of people and such. So finding the care farm, which I was so lucky was, it had done its first year. I went during its second year, and I'm often being told that if I hadn't have gone through that system and gained the confidence and the ability to go and ask for a job and go straight into work from that system, they wouldn't have been given the funding from the NHS to continue for the next 2 years, which is obviously why I did a lot of seminars and sharing my story and stuff, because me doing that proved that this foreign system worked, and what Dukkha had brought to the table in England really worked. So I'm obviously very proud that I was able to help him prove that. And since me doing so, Clink's Care Farm themselves have helped hundreds of people, might even be into the thousands now. It's been 13, 14, 14 years since, so it's probably thousands of people that Clink's Care Farm themselves have helped into work, or into some form of back into the social world, let's say, back into society. But not only that, it's raised a lot more care farms, which I'm sure have helped hundreds more people. So I think when I look back, and I still struggle to this day with my mental health and feeling worthless and feeling like I'm a nobody and I haven't achieved anything. But actually, when I certainly while I was writing out this stuff for him, I realised that my very first achievement was bettering myself through Clink's Care Farm. And that so that was my first achievement, and it has helped. So me doing that has helped so many other people go from the place that I was into the place that I am, and and that makes me feel good about myself. And I'm told quite often by Dukkha and the team there that I should feel proud of that. My boss at the time, when doing these breakfast seminars, I went to one and I was interviewed for the local paper, and my boss was there as well, because he was sharing his side of the story of me going and asking for the job and such. And I muttered to myself, I don't really know why this newspaper wants to interview me. I haven't done anything. Of course, then my boss took me to the side and he said to me, and this makes me quite emotional, he said to me, don't you dare, he said, it was a long time ago, so he said something along the lines of, don't you dare think that you didn't do anything. You came from a very difficult place where a lot of people didn't think you would make it to 18, and you with the help of Dukkha, sorry, I keep butchering his name, and everybody does, but he said that I had achieved something by simply getting better. and not all the way better. You can never cure these things, because I later found out that it was autism. And he made me realise, that our struggles, and coming out of the other side of our struggles, sometimes we need a little bit of help. I needed a lot of help, and this care farm gave it to me, and I achieved something that for a long time I thought was impossible. So, and that's why I was being interviewed. It was just so lucky that when I went to the care farm and found that I had a real interest and a real knack with pigs, that there was also a pig farm in my village, and it was like, before any people come at me with hate, the pig farm that I worked on in my village was probably the best and highest welfare standard I have ever seen on a farm. We were recently, unfortunately, because there was a pig crisis, the amount of money dropped significantly, and it caused a lot of pig farms to shut down. So unfortunately he's had to get rid of the pigs, but he still operates with his arable and such. Where was I going? But so it was lucky for me, and it was lucky that this pig farm, anyway, we had pigs on both sides of the bypass, and he actually, my boss, encouraged people to come and look at the pigs, take pictures if they wanted to, because we had nothing to hide. We kept very, very good care of those pigs. They always had dry bedding, a dry place to eat their food, and clean water, which, those three things I took very good pride in. That, I was the one that went round everywhere and dug stones out of their drinkers and cleaned their drinking troughs. When it was really wet in the winter months, we would roll out some bales where we could put their food, so they had a dry place for food. At one point, one paddock even flooded near the edge of the pen where the food would normally go, and drop from the tractor. So we had to roll out a few round bales across this water. The place where they ate was still high up and dry, and obviously we would still put straw down anyway, but we actually had to go and roll out, I think it was about 3 or 4 bales for the pigs to be able to get across this water, which they wouldn't cross because it was cold, obviously, in order for them to get to their food. And so we went above and beyond to make sure that those pigs had everything that they needed. They were very happy, very, very happy. We even gave the boars names and such. And I can always go into that at a later date, but I'm sure this video is probably going to cut soon. So yeah, that was my basic thing is with farming and mental health. Certainly if you're in farming and you're struggling with mental health, you can always drop a comment, and I can always look into helping where I can, for the fact that I've been through that. I've been through that. I've done all that. Got the pig poo stained t-shirt and such. So yeah. Anyway, I'm sure I'll upload another video soon. I hope everybody has a good week, and I will be back soon, I'm sure. Bye bye.